Good morning class 12th. So in this our third chapter, electric current, I told you at the starting of this chapter that here the charge is no more at the rest, rather we are allowing the charge to move with a uniform velocity, and it produces what we call the electric current. And after that we revised the definition of electric current a bit and obtained a relation between the drift velocity and the current. We introduced a new term, that is current density, and followed by the classical statement of Ohm's law and modern statement of Ohm's law as well. And of course, yes, we wind up studying the important concept of resistivity of the different materials, and today we are going to start from there only. Resistivity of different material, we'll do a few conceptual questions based on that, and after that we are going to study the most interesting part of this chapter, which is the combination of resistors and circuit solving. So let us start with that. So let us start with the formula of the resistance that we obtained last time. R is equal to rho L by A. What is rho here? The resistivity of the different materials, and the formula for the rho was m by n e square tau. What is m? Mass of the electron. N, number density, which is the number of electrons per unit volume. E is the charge on the electron, and tau is the relaxation time. Now, on how many factors resistivity depends, let us revise that very quickly. When we increase the temperature, what are the two factors which changes? So when we increase the temperature, number density, that is the number of available free charges, that increases, and they collide with one another, so tau decreases, n increases and tau decreases. So the variation in n and tau results in the change in the resistivity. So let us do a very short conceptual question that will make the concept clear. Assuming that you are given a piece of wire here, which is, I am showing you the enlarged view of the wire here. Assuming that the length is L and the cross section area is A, and what you are given is, when we stretch the wire and increase the length to double, what remains constant? It is the volume that remains constant. So what is the volume here? The volume here is L into A. Isn't it that the volume initial and the final should be same? So what is the volume here? It is 2L into A by 2, 2 cancels out and it is LA. So the final volume and the initial volume remains same. That means when we increase the length, the area also reduces accordingly, so as to keep the volume same. Let us use the parameters here in this formula. One thing, before we substitute the values there in the formula, will the resistivity also change when we stretch the wire to double the length? Will the resistivity also change? No. We are not changing m, n, e or tau. None of the parameter is changed. That means the resistivity of the material remains same. So let us find out the initial resistance, putting the value. So it is L by A, and final resistance is rho. What is the length here? Twice L. What is the area here? That is reduced to half. So let us see what the answer comes out to be. 4 L by A. So this parameter is initial resistance. That means, of course, the resistance changes. It becomes 4 times the initial value. Resistivity remains same, because none of the parameters that are actually going to change resistivity is changed here. What we are changing? We are changing the length. Accordingly, the cross-sectional area is changed, because we have put the initial condition that the volume should remain same. I think it is clear now. Now in the second part, what we have done is, the same wire is given to me, made up of the copper of the length L and the cross-sectional area A. Now instead of stretching the wire, what we have done is, we have cut the wire in 2 equal halves. So one is this half, length L by 2, and the second one is this half, length L by 2. Cross sectional area remains same because we have not stretched the wire, nor we have compressed the wire. So cross sectional area remains same. Now we have to find out that of each piece of the wire what is the resistance. So let us use the same concept. Can we use the concept that the volume remains same here? No, I cannot use that concept because here the length is reduced to half. Cross sectional area remains same. So volume will not be same here. So let us put the values there in the formula of the resistance to get the final answer. So let us take this part of the wire is having the resistance R, and let us take it RF. Half of the part of the wire is having the resistance RF. So let us find out what is the initial value of the resistance. This is the initial configuration given to you. So it is R is equal to rho L by A. What about RF, children? So RF will be rho, resistivity of course remains same. We have not changed the temperature, so resistivity will not change. None of the parameter here is changed. So it is rho. What is the length here? It is L by 2 by A here. What is the area? Area remains same. So my answer becomes rho L by A, and it is half of that. So let us now start with the resistance and the types of the resistance that are available in the market. Resistance, the definition the same that we started in the 10th class. It is the opposition to the flow of the current. Opposition to the flow of the current. And in your house, what are the various devices that offer resistance? Everything. A fan, a refrigerator, a television, or any other device, any other material that is available in your house that offers some resistance. Wood, infinite resistance. But now the point is, then what was the need when any material that is available in the houses is offering some resistance? Then what was the point constructing or using the resistances made up of the wire or made up of the carbon? In the industry, we need the resistance of the variable values, and they should be compact in size, and they can be made to work at the higher frequency also. So all these characteristics are available there in the carbon resistors. They are very compact, very small in size, and very high value can be obtained by constructing the carbon resistors. So they are made up of carbon or graphite. Now what is the case with the wire bound resistors? Wire bound resistors, as is clear from the name, they are constructed from the wire. You have to draw the several length of the wire and then wound them to get a specific value of the resistance. If I have to construct a very large value of the resistance, that means for a specific value of the resistivity I have to take the kilometers of the wire, and winding that particular wire means that the size will increase. So the wire bound resistance might not be compact, as we are getting a compact size in the carbon resistors. And wire bound resistors I cannot use for the high frequency also. Therefore I need to switch over to the carbon resistors. Now when we are talking about the carbon resistors, as they are made up of the carbon and they are very compact in size, and assuming that this is a carbon resistor shown over there, and almost all the carbon resistors are identical, so there must be something available on the carbon that a layman can come to know that okay, this is the value of the resistance that has been given to me. For that, what is the procedure? On the carbon resistance are provided with the rings. Colored rings are provided over the carbon resistor. So there is a first ring here, we are having a second ring, we are having a third ring, and we are having a fourth ring over there. So first three rings are very close to each other, and the fourth one is at a little distance from the third one, and each ring has its specific value. and if I need to decode the value of this carbon resistor, I need to follow a color table, color coding table. So what is that color coding table? Have a look at this table here on the right hand side. So we can have in all 9 colors, starting from black, followed by brown, then red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, grey and white. So they all are the 9 colors that can be provided with the first 3 rings. So first 3 rings can have the colors ranging from black to white. So what is the meaning of this? For example, the first ring is black, so the number that we assign to that is 0. Then for brown, 1, 2 for orange, red, 3 for orange, and so on. For white it comes out to be 9. Same way, second ring also stands for some number starting from 0 up to 9 for the white. Third ring, which is provided over there, is a multiplier. So in case the third ring is present and which is black in color, so the multiplier that I am going to use is 10 raised to the power this number, 10 raised to the power 0. For example, if it is brown here, the third ring is brown, so the multiplier will be 10 raised to power this number. That means it is 10 to the power 1. For red, 10 raised to the power this number, so it is 10 to the power 2, and so on. In case we are given a white color, third ring is a white color, then the multiplier will be 10 raised to the power this number, so it will be 10 raised to the power 9. And the fourth color options are very limited. We can have only 2 colors over there, either gold or silver, or there is no fourth color at all. What is the meaning of the fourth color? Fourth color means that what is the tolerance, how much is the error that can be present there in the carbon resistor. For example, if the fourth ring is 5%, if the fourth ring is gold, the error is minimum. That means the resistance that is given to you is very almost close to accuracy, and the error is 5%. For silver, the tolerance or the error is 10%, plus minus 10%. And if the fourth ring is missing, there is no color at all, then the error is plus minus 20%. So assume that you are given a carbon resistance with a color code say black, red and yellow, and the fourth ring is gold. So the first ring is say black, second is red, and the third ring is yellow, and the fourth ring is gold. So what will be the value of that resistance? So the first ring I am given is black, second is red, third is yellow, and the fourth ring is gold. So what will be the value of this resistance that we need to calculate from this color table? So let us decode the colors that are given on the carbon resistor. First ring is black, so look at this first ring color table, and if the first ring is black, then what is the value here? 0. Second ring is red, so second ring, and I have to go up to red, so this is the number assigned, number 2. Third ring is yellow, third ring is yellow, I have to come to this term here, so this is the multiplier, so 10 raised to the power 4. And what is this gold? How much error can be there present there in the carbon resistance? That is minimum, plus minus 5%. So let us solve this. First 2 numbers are to be written as it is, so 0, 2, then it is a multiplier multiplied by 10 to the power 4. And what is the unit of the resistance? Of course it is ohm, so it is ohm plus minus error, and the error is 5%. So this is the value. We can resolve the issue further. So what can be the final value of the resistance that is given to you? Either it is 20 kilo ohm plus 5%, or it is 20 kilo ohm minus 5% 2. This is the range. So what can be the range of the carbon resistance that is given to you? 20. This can be written as 20 kilo ohm. So 20 kilo ohm minus 5% to 20 kilo ohm plus 5%. So this is the range. Between this range will be the value of the carbon resistance that is given to you. So at times in the board exam, a 1 marker question can appear wherein some resistance will be given to you, carbon resistance, and you will have to decode it. For that, this color table should be learned to you all. So that is about how to decode a carbon resistance. So let us now come to the next topic that will eventually lead us to the circuit solution, various circuit solution, and for that we need to study Kirchhoff's laws, and there are two laws of Kirchhoff, KCL and KVL. So let us study them. So now let us start with Kirchhoff's laws, but before we start it in detail, let us have a look at that circuit shown in the index. A little complex circuit in comparison to the simple circuits that you have done in your 10th standard, and assuming that the question that comes in is that okay, find out the current across R1 or find out the current across R3, then becomes a little difficult task. That means to simplify such circuit solutions wherein the current in the circuit needs to be calculated, or I need to find out the potential across R1, R2 or R3. For that I need some rules, and if I'm aware of the Kirchhoff's rule, both the rules, then the circuit solution might be a little easier. So there are two rules. One is KCL, which is also called junction rule. This is junction rule. And the second one is KVL, which is also known as loop rule. So what is the junction rule? Junction rule, first of all, what is a junction? Junction is any point from where more than two wires are connected. Junction is any point at which more than two wires are connected. So here at this point, let me call this point as A. So at this point A, one wire going to R2, one wire going to R1, and this third wire going to the cell E2. There are three wires, so I'll call that okay, point A is a junction. Same ways, this point, let me call this point as B. B will also be known as a junction. So what is this junction rule? Junction rule says that at any junction, A or B or any other, if at any junction sum of the currents that is taking an entry is equal to sum of the currents that are taking an exit from the junction. For example, if I am saying that okay, this current is I1 going to the upper branch, and I2 is the current going to the lower branch, and I3 is the branch that is coming from the middle branch, then isn't that the current that is entering in the junction is I3? I3 is entering this junction, and I1 and I2 are taking an exit. I1 going out towards R1, I2 going out towards the cell E2. So if I apply this junction rule to this point A, I'll say that okay, I3 will be equal to I2 plus I1. So I2 and I1, they are taking an exit, moving out, moving away from the junction, and I3 is the current that is entering in or moving towards the junction. So this is the junction rule, that at any junction current that is going in is same as the sum of all the currents which are going out of the junction. Next rule is KVL, which we also known as a loop rule. So it is Kirchhoff's loop rule. So what is the rule? The rule says that you have to choose a closed loop. So look at that circuit once again. Isn't that this circuit, if I take this circuit from here to here, this is a closed loop. If I take this circuit, this is a closed loop. So the mandatory thing is, before we apply this loop rule, I must select a loop, a closed loop, and in that closed loop Kirchhoff said that okay, sum of the EMF offered by the cell, sum of the EMFs offered by all the cells present in the closed loop. So if I am taking this loop, the upper loop, how many cells are present? E1. In the second loop, how many cells are present? E2. So it says that had there been one more cell over there, then we'll have to add the EMFs of both the cells, of course with proper sign convention. So it says that sum of the EMF offered by all the cell and the potential difference across the different resistances present in the circuit is equal to 0. Of course we have to apply this KVL with proper sign convention for the EMFs and proper sign convention for the current which is flowing through the resistance. These both the rules will be more clear when we will take one example. So let us do one example. So have a look at this simple circuit. We are learning how to apply KCL and KVL in solving networks. So KCL, what is the KCL? That at any nodal point, sum of all the currents that are entering should be same as sum of all the currents that are taking an exit. So if I apply the KCL to the point B, I am applying KCL at the point B. Since the current I1 is entering in here, so I1 should be equal to the sum of all the currents that are taking an exit. So I3 is taking an exit from the point B and I2 is also going out. So it is I2 plus I3. This is my equation number 1. Now let us apply the KVL, and for the KVL I need to choose the closed loop. So it is very much apparent there are two loops which are closed loop. One is this and the second loop is this. I have chosen one loop here. Second loop of course will be in the right hand side portion. You can choose the loop clockwise or anti-clockwise. Significance I will explain a bit later. So let us understand the rules of sign convention. Sign convention that I am going to follow for the cells and for the potential drop across the resistors. If the loop is entering the negative terminal, take minus E, else take positive. Else take positive means that if the loop is entering the positive terminal, then take the or EMF offered by the cell as positive. Second convention is if the loop is going in the direction of the current. If the loop is going in the direction of the current, take potential difference as positive, else take it negative. So let us solve this network wherein you are given three currents in the three branches. I1 entering this junction B, I2 entering this junction B, and I3 is out of this junction B. And our task is that we have to find out the value of all the three current, I1, I2 and I3. We have to find out all the currents, and if the currents are known, of course we can find out the potential difference across all the resistances. So let us apply KCL, and side by side we will learn the sign convention also when we will be using the KVL. So when we apply the KCL for the point B, current I1 and I2 are entering this terminal, which is equal to current I3 which is taking an exit. So when we apply KCL, it will be I1 plus I2 is equal to I3. This is our equation number 1, and we have obtained it by using KCL at the point, which point? At the point B. Now let us apply the KVL. For the KVL, I need to choose the loop. So this is my loop 1. Assuming that I have taken a loop, a closed loop like this. This is my closed loop, and clockwise is the direction of the loop. So let us take this loop first. For loop 1, let us apply the KVL. So we'll start with the cell. Isn't that the loop is going in the, we were to, okay, let us choose this as the loop. So the loop is going in the positive terminal here. So should be plus 1 or minus 1? Obviously should be plus 1. Now if we just move ahead, it is going from D to B. The loop is going from D to B and the current is going in a opposite direction, B to D. So the potential difference across this 4 ohm resistance, which is 4I3, RI, resistance is 4 and the current is I3. So the potential difference across this resistance is 4I3. Now 4I3 positive or negative? Since it is going opposite to the loop, therefore it should be minus 4I3. Let us go ahead now in this loop. Since the current is anti-clockwise, loop is going anti-clockwise and the current here is from A to B and my loop is going from B to A, anti-clockwise. Again the current is opposite to the loop, so the potential drop across this 1I1 or simply I1 should be taken as negative. So it is minus I1. And again we'll be back to the cell. So the KVL equation is complete. This should be equal to 0. This is what the KVL is, algebraic sum of the EMFs offered by the cell, and the sum of the potential difference across all the resistances should be 0, provided we use the sign convention. So this is my equation number 2. This is the equation number 2. Let us apply the KVL to this second loop. So what is this equation for loop 2? Let us start from the cell. Since the loop chosen is clockwise and the loop is going to the positive terminal of the cell, so should be plus 2 or minus 2? Obviously should be plus 2. What next? The loop is going upwards and the current is coming downwards, again opposite, so should be minus, and what is the potential difference? 4I3, minus 4I3. Let us move ahead now. In this branch, loop is going from B to C and the current is going the opposite direction, so the potential difference here should also be taken as negative. So should be 2I2 with a minus sign. So it is minus 2I2 and this should be 0. The loop is now complete. This is our equation number 3. This is our equation number 3. Now look at all the 3 equations. Equation 1, 2 and 3. Isn't that we are having 3 variables? I1, I2, I3. I1 and I3 here and I2 and I3 here. So 3 variables and 3 equations can be solved using the elimination method. So let us solve it and get the final answer. So let us see the solutions now. When we resolve the issue, putting the value of I3 is equal to I1 plus I2 in the equation 2 and 3. We'll get these 2 equations. Again using the elimination method, I finally obtained I2 is equal to 3 by 7 ampere and I1 is equal to minus 1 by 7 ampere. And since I3 was the sum of I1 and I2, the value came out to be 2 by 7 ampere. Now what is the significance of minus sign here? That the direction of the current should be taken as opposite of what has already been chosen. So what is the direction of I1 here? I1 direction was given from A to B. Minus sign indicate that the direction should not be from A to B, rather the direction of I1 should be from B to A and not from A to B. So this is a wonderful result that we have obtained. The wonderful thing about the circuit solutions, that whatever the loop that you are choosing or whatever the directions of the current that you are given, if you are getting a minus sign anywhere with the current direction, that means the direction of the current that has been chosen is not correct, and you have to take it opposite to the direction of the current that has already been chosen. So I1 direction, which was going from A to B, should be actually from B to A. Should be actually from B to A. So that is the application of the KVL and the KCL. Let us take different kind of networks and see a very quick method to solve few networks.